So there we have it. We have the medley of shrimp and green leafy vegetables, spinach, and the leaf of beets in ginger and garlic. Hey guys, this is Dr. Habib. Today I'm going to make a delicious shrimp and spinach medley, and it's going to be very nutritious. So as I cook, bear with me, I'm going to explain the benefits of all these nutrients. But here I've got my wok, and I'm going to use coconut oil, ginger and garlic. The ginger's been chopped and the garlic's been mushed. And I've got some Argentinian wild shrimp, salt and pepper, and the most important ingredient, whole turmeric. So whilst the wok is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and put in just about a heaping teaspoon of coconut oil. For good measure, I'm going to put a little bit more. As you guys know, that because the coconut oil is so good in monounsaturated fats, and it doesn't saturate with heating, I can use fairly high heat and get away with it. And in most of the dishes that we cook in the Indian subcontinent style, they put onion, ginger, and garlic. So here, it's so simple that we don't need to put the onions in and still get the full flavor. So this is pretty hot because you saw some of the steam going up, right? And so before I put anything in, I want to let it just cool down just a touch. Whilst that's cooling down, I'm going to show you where my leaves are coming from. I've got two types of leaves here. I've got the leaves from beets, and I've got the spinach here. I like the whole spinach. I'm going to explain to you that the green leaves are full of nitrates, whether it's in the spinach or in the beets. And these stems are where you have the fibers, and the insoluble fibers are like food for your bacteria. They'll ferment that fiber and really produce short-chain fatty acids. That's really where the positive signals for metabolism come from. And look at the rich redness of that. And you're gonna get a lot of phytonutrients out of the richness of that color. These are, you can just say anything with a lot of color will have antioxidants in them. And of course, the fibers here, you can tell, are going to be even more fibrous than spinach, which generally tends to be much softer. But I think the mixture of the two is going to be interesting. I think it's going to complement each other. You could do either or. And just bear in mind that spinach is so gentle and soft. It doesn't matter what you do to cut it, it's all going to cook nice and slowly, nice and soft. But with the stems here, I'm going to chop them up extra fine because I need that surface area to be large enough that when it's cooked, it matches with everything else. So that's just the way I like it. And so if people are afraid of the fibrous nature of this, then maybe you just sort of chop off the stems and just keep the leaves. Your choice, right? So here we are. I'll start with this one because this is the one that I'm going to spend a little bit more time cooking before the spinach goes in. So this is my little packing thing. I'm trying to get the long stems kind of to come down a little bit and the delicate leaves to be at the top end. So I match those up here. All right. So because I'm ready to get started, then I'm going to go ahead and put in the ginger and garlic right now. I always like ginger first because when you put, say, for this amount of material, I would say, half a teaspoon of ginger. And you can hear that ginger sizzling without being burnt. So I always start with the ginger just for about 30 seconds. Get the oil to, well, actually it'll be less than 30 seconds because it's still nice and hot. So it just depends on how you like to cook. Everyone has a different style. Someone has a kind of slow style. I'm a little bit faster. I'm doing it a little slowly because I'm doing all this talking. And then with the garlic, you don't need it as much as you would, say, when you're making just vegetables alone. But because, that's a whole teaspoon, because I've got all that shrimp that I want to cook and get that flavor. And so with the garlic, I want to spend even less time cooking it because if you end up frying it too much, it gets burnt and you get the bitter smell. So I'm smelling the nice aroma already, so I'm ready for the whole turmeric. You don't need a lot of it, so I think most people will get away with, say, half a teaspoon or less. But, I like a little bit extra, so that's that. Why am I putting it in now? That extra oil is going to fry the turmeric. and give a richness in flavor and color that the raw doesn't have. The raw, as it sounds, would be raw and give you more of a bite. It's a lighter yellow, and here you can see the rich yellow here. Now at this point, some people might put chili powder in or green chilies, that's their choice. So that's moving nicely. So because it's moving so well, I'm ready to put the shrimp in. So these are already been butterflied. Beautiful. If you like to see your shrimp big, what I'm going to do is cut them into smaller pieces, because I want to get a bite of the shrimp with every bite here. So just small pieces. That's shrimp. Now if you don't want to put shrimp, that's fine. You can put chicken if you want. It'll just take a few more minutes to cook. Now shrimp doesn't take long to cook, 5 minutes. Everything I do is like 5 minutes. It ends up being just a little bit more, because I'm always an optimistic person. Everything's going to get done fast. But it'll take just a little bit more than 5 minutes. But now you can hear that the sizzling has calmed down, because I've put in the shrimp and it's absorbed that heat. So I'm going to look down and just bring it back up. So not too low, because I don't want the liquid from the shrimp to come out. I want to fry the shrimp a little bit. The better way to describe it would be to saute, right? So I've coated the shrimp with all the turmeric, ginger, garlic, and it's it's like anything. When you make shrimp and you do it right, and that's when you saute it or fry it, it's just a different flavor on its own. And these are big shrimp, wonderful. These are the finishing touches here. And so what I mean by cutting it small is, we'll try to get it all together without cutting anything. So small, because these have more fibers, so I need to cut them smaller, and that way they'll cook nicely. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can chop this further if I want. I personally think this would work just fine. Before I put that in, give that a stir. Oh, it smells great. So this is pretty much half done. You hear me saying half done a lot. It's because timing is important. So you just want to get that half done. Others, overcooking your shrimp is not a good idea, because it's going to get rubbery, right? So when that's half done, by the time these go in, then you're going to find, I really don't need to make it so small, because it's going to cook. I'm going to let it sit and I'm going to let it cook. So let's get that in here. Look at that rich color. Oh my God, that purple, full of antioxidants. It goes in there. Look at that sizzle. Well, hear that sizzle. Stir that in, and it's cooking away. Now that it's done its frying, I don't need to fry the vegetable per se. So I'm ready to add the salt, half a teaspoon of salt. Always put less, because you can always add more. Once you put too much, you can't take it away. And I wouldn't necessarily use pepper here, but if you did, it'll be just a very small pinch. Because it's so spicy, you don't need to spice it up, whether it's for the heat factor or any other factor. So that's the one that goes in first, because it's going to take it just a little bit longer to cook. I'm not going to put a lid on it, because I don't want all the liquid from the vegetable to float to the top, then it becomes too soggy in my mind. So here we go now. Now with the spinach, I've washed it, but I haven't cleaned it up perfectly. I want you to see how easy it is to prepare, right? So if I take a bunch at a time, and the reason I'm taking my I'm relaxed is because I know that this is going to cook so fast that I'm not in a hurry here. I'm not in a hurry, so I just take off the stem and I'll put it aside. So the leaves have the nitrates, and the nitrates are converted to nitrite by bacteria in your gut. The fibers are the things that feed the bugs in your gut. They're called insoluble fiber. You have two types of fiber. Soluble ones lower cholesterol. Insoluble ones are fermented by the bacteria in your colon. So I'm just lining them up to try to keep the long pieces together and the leaves near the top. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some of them are coming out. So here, this one you can be a little bit more coarse. So I'm keeping them bigger pieces here. And there we go. Get a few more of the coarse pieces. Okay, these can go in there now. Doesn't matter if a few leaves go in there. So because these have fibers, we want to cook those first. And I can smell the shrimp. It's all mixing nicely. Look at the color. Color of the shrimp, color of the beet stems. This is primarily the spinach stems, and it's cooking. Spinach stems don't take a long time to cook. That's why that half a teaspoon of salt, for it may not seem like a lot of salt, but it's a lot of salt because all these vegetables will shrink in size tremendously. So I'll put this aside because of the leaves, you'll find that the beet leaves are more robust, so they need to be cooked first, just by a little bit. So here we go. Again, cut those pieces a little bit on the smaller side. So I kind of roll it up where I can, then chop into it. And if you like big pieces, then you could leave it like that, but I like the pieces to be small, so I'll crisscross them, and now they're kind of more chopped, right? So it's good to go. Get that in there. See the way I'm placing it? Because some of the stems are still in here, so if I hold it, I place the stems first, then the stems are going to cook through with that steam that's coming from the pot before the leaves cook through. And again, the most important part is what we did before, which is to get the stems in first before the leaves. As I said, you don't have to cook with the stems if you don't want to. You can just buy yourself the packs of organic spinach, baby spinach. It's already cleaned. Put them in because the leaves are so small, you don't even have to chop those up. This was the whole spinach, so the leaves are broader, so I chopped them up. And you could do frozen. You can have frozen spinach if you like. If I get frozen, I still like to get frozen spinach that is the whole leaf. Because what happens when you chop something like I'm doing now? You are now breaking the nutrients, and not only are you getting less nutrition if you chop them and leave them lying around, but you also, the flavor, I think, changes. The flavor is held on in its whole form. So I like to keep the whole vegetable in my fridge and only prepare it when it's ready to go. And the ones that get dropped off in the mail, they stay fresh, I'm assuming, because they do it quickly within that 24-hour period, but I wouldn't feel comfortable about having my chopped vegetables sitting around for more than 24 hours. I just think the flavors are going away. Before I add this, now it's time to stir that. And look, I didn't even burn it. Isn't that amazing? See, there's the liquid that's coming out because of the salt. And that's why I don't need to put a lid, because without the lid, it's gonna dry out nicely. So I put the hot stuff at the top and put the cold stuff at the bottom. And this is almost ready. I mean, this is almost ready to cook. The spinach leaves are so delicate. You could literally flash them and they'll be done, frankly. So, spinach leaves don't take a long time. You don't really need to cook it for long. And so I'm ready to just put that on the top because, I can smell the spinach already. That's great. I like to take every little bit of my leaves. I don't like wasting anything. So what we have is a dish with shrimp, wild shrimp, so lots of omega-3, and good flavor. You've got ginger and garlic, they're great for detoxifying. You've got two types of leaves. You've got the leaves from beets, you've got the leaves from spinach with the fibers in my case, and pretty much this is done. So you've got full of nitrates, and those are necessary to make nitric oxide, good fats from the fish, and that's a great anti-inflammatory, immune boosting vegetable. Look, it's already getting, you see the greenness is coming through, and it's pretty much done. And not much liquid, just a little bit of liquid at the bottom. And if you don't like that, then turn up the heat. So let me do that. I'll just turn it up. What I would do here is just taste that. Oh, great. The whole medley of the ginger, garlic, and shrimp, it's in that sauce. So I might just keep that sauce, because that sauce could easily be drizzled over a bed of rice. That's what I would do. With dishes like this, you want a carbohydrate. You could have some potato if you want, but this is an ethnic dish, so rice, a bed of rice would be the perfect thing. Boiled rice, white rice. And look, soft, it's green, it's done. So there we have it. We have the medley of shrimp and green leafy vegetables, spinach, and the leaf of beets in ginger and garlic. Hi, it's Dr. Habib. Today I wanted just to elaborate on the dish that we just prepared. It's my twist on the shrimp and spinach dish. So what we had is a combination that's a very nutritious combination. Starting with the shrimp, which is high in omega-3 because they were wild Argentinian shrimp. That omega-3 is really good as an anti-inflammatory when combined with antioxidants. And so when you have vegetables which are deep green leafy vegetables like the spinach and the beet leaves, those were leaves from beets. They're rich in vitamin C, but what is really amazing about them is that the color of the beet, the stems, they're full of phytonutrients. And so vitamin C is clearly part of it. And then what happens with these green leafy vegetables is that they're full of fiber, and that's the most important factor about both spinach and beets. But that fiber, particularly the harder fiber from the beet leaves, is that they're insoluble, so many of them will reach the large intestines where the bacteria will metabolize them and they use them as fuel. So when the bacteria have the right fuel, they can then go on to produce short-chain fatty acids. And I was alluding that short-chain fatty acids are necessary for positive signals like lowering inflammation and increasing metabolism. The other beautiful thing about these green leafy vegetables is they're full of minerals. So minerals are very, very good to alkalinize your body. These minerals come from the soil, hopefully, and they're in the plant. So when they alkalinize the body, what happens is that you're able to detoxify through the kidneys more readily. The alkalinity keeps your pH in such a way that inflammation is kept down. So alkaline urine and minerals are very, very important. And so that combination of minerals, fiber, antioxidants, omega-3 not only make a very tasty dish, but it's a very nourishing dish, great for your immune system.